Today in this chapter, I'm going to be covering the two types of exposure that could be coming into your home, how to figure out what direction light is coming into your home, and I also want to cover where you should be placing your plants in your home so that they can thrive in the light that is available. So we're working with two different types of light coming into your home, one direct and one indirect. When it comes to direct sun, we're talking about the sun's rays directly hitting the source. You can see them hitting the back of my fist there. Now, there are two different types of intensities when it comes to direct sun. You can have your AM direct sun, which is a cooler direct sun, which a lot of your indoor plants can live, thrive in because it's not as harsh. But if you have PM direct sun, that can be brutal. It can sunburn a lot of your indoor plants, unless you're someone who likes to collect cacti or succulents who live in deserts where they get nothing but intense direct sun. So while we have direct sun, we also have indirect light. When we're talking about indirect light, that is the sun being filtered, diffused by a source, whether that's blinds, whether that's curtains, whether that's the clouds that are taking all of that direct sun and balling it all up into a nice, even filtered light, which we call indirect light. So how do you tell if a plant is getting indirect light or direct light? Well, here's an example. This Hoya here is getting bright indirect light because this plant, from where it hangs in this window, it can see the sky, but it's not seeing the sun. So if you have a plant in your home and you're trying to figure out whether or not it's sitting in the best type of light, if that plant can look out your window and see the sky, the openness of that sky, but not see the sun, it is in bright indirect light. When you're trying to bring a plant into your home, you have to know what type of light works best for that plant so that it can thrive. So while at the plant shop, take note of what type of light the plant requires. The best way to figure out what type of light you have coming into your home is to understand what direction your windows are facing. Given that I am in the northern hemisphere, our sun will rise in the east and take a nice little slightly southern curvature across and set in the west. Understanding what direction your windows are facing might not be as easy as it looks. So for me, I might have to use a compass app, point my compass towards a direction. These windows are actually facing northwest, while the window over there is facing east. In your eastern facing window, the type of exposure you're gonna possibly be seeing will be an AM direct sun, which is a cooler direct sun, which is good for a lot of your house plants. But in the PM, once that sun clocks over your home, the rest of the day, you're gonna have indirect light coming into that window because the sun is no longer directly entering into that eastern facing window. And because it's a cooler direct sun, it won't burn or sunburn the foliage of your plants, so that is a fine window to place your plant friends in. Plants like your ficus, this variegated rubber tree, or your philodendron, they love that eastern light. For your southern facing windows, you're gonna get an exposure throughout the entire day that will be indirect light. In certain times of the year, what you might get, because the sun will travel lower throughout the sky, might get indirect light to direct sun for most of the day. If you're someone that has a lot of southern light, you have so much room to play. You can do any sort of, let's say, spindle palm. You can do a monstera. You can do a fiddle leaf fig. You can just have as much fun as you want. And for your northern facing windows, when the sun rises in the east, that northern facing window will never see direct sun. So its exposure will be indirect for the entire day. A staghorn fern like this guy here loves northern facing light. Perfect for any of those ferns, those anthuriums, those orchids. Your western facing windows, they provide you with afternoon direct sun. And again, that direct sun is harsh and can burn the foliage of a lot of your plants. And when we're talking about burning, it'll just sunburn them, which could kill them over time, and that's not what you want, unless you have cacti or succulents, like this agave here. If you don't have cacti or succulents in that western facing window, you're gonna want something that can help filter that hot direct sun. Maybe some sort of curtains to block that hot direct sun and filter it into bright indirect light. You wanna know for a fact where the plants can survive and live their best lives. There are many ways you can figure this out. Maybe you want to get technical in some way, maybe measure it with measuring tape from your window to about 5 feet back. If your plant, and from that distance, can see the sky, it is in bright indirect light. Anywhere from 5 feet to 10 feet back from that window, that's going to be indirect to medium light. And anywhere from 10 feet to complete darkness will be low light and, of course, darkness. And if you're someone who's pushing a plant into darkness, shame on you. That plant, again, is a living thing. Make sure you give it some light. There's no such thing as a low light, loving plant. The plant's not loving that low light. It's not like, please shove me into that dark corner. No, it's only tolerating that low light. What happens when you're not giving a plant enough light? One of those things is legginess. This paddle cactus here, I actually moved this to this direct western facing window because it used to live in a northern facing window. And as it developed new growth, as you can see, these petals are much fuller than the ones that it has been growing, and that's because of lack of light. They're pulling, stretching themselves towards as much light as they can possibly get, so that's why you're not seeing full growth. You can also see it in this other cactus that I actually had to move over as well, as it was a bit more bulbous at the base. While it was sitting in a northern facing window, it starts to get a bit more slender, and that is called legginess. Just because light is coming and hitting your plant doesn't mean that all sides of that plant are getting the light they need. So it's important to rotate your plants. Now this particular philodendron here, you can see how all of the foliage, the new growth, is starting to pull towards this light. So I don't have a lot of growth happening this way. All of that new growth is all chasing that light. So in order to have balanced that out, I should have been rotating it as I was when it was a smaller plant. As you can see, growth coming this way, growth coming this way, that way, all around the entire plant. So I hope now that you have a better understanding of what type of exposure, what type of light is coming into your homes, and the plants that can thrive in that light.